Hey everyone, welcome if you're joining us. Amazing. Hey, as you join us, we've got lots more people joining in at the moment. Can you just share in the chat where in the world you are and what you do? Where in the world you are and what you do. And Sydney and I will be getting underway with the webinar very, very soon. We would love to know. I'm actually in Spain right now. I'm actually in Valencia. I do spend most of my time in the Americas, but occasionally in Europe. But currently in Spain for a bit and about to head to France for a month soon, which would be great. We're about to you, Sydney.
I'm down in Tampa, Florida right now, and it's quite a humid day, and the humidity is fogging up all my windows. So I can't see outside right now, but better than being cold.
Absolutely, absolutely. It's definitely warming up in most parts of the world for people. Although people are always going, Logan, where's the accent from? I'm actually from New Zealand, and I'll tell you what, in New Zealand right now, it is cold. It's like snowing in some parts of New Zealand, and it's very, very cold. So I'm not in New Zealand right now, keeping away from that. Hey, look, loving to see where everyone's based. We've got lots of mentions here. Liz, Austin. Hey, Liz, fantastic. Love it. Even there in Denver. Hello from San Diego. I love it. So good. Amazing. Hamburg, Germany. Awesome. Someone else in Europe. I love it. Fantastic. Oh, amazing seeing where everyone's from. Amsterdam, Kansas City, Washington State, Chicago. So cool. And it's also awesome seeing what people do and the things that people are sharing. If you've just joined us, we're just sharing in the chat. Where are you from and what do you do? Just as we gather to get underway. Amazing. Seeing lots of familiar names and faces there as well. Hey, what I do say is you are on mute at the moment or for this call because Sydney and I will be sort of running things. Otherwise, everyone's talking at once. But we would love you to have your video on if possible because we love being able to see you and engage with you. You don't have to. It's totally fine as well. But you'll just notice those things. Hey, Cecilia, amazing. Milan, Italy, I love it. Philly, Portland, Ukraine, amazing. Berlin. Amazing. This is so great seeing people from all over the world. I know those of us who are in sort of more European time zones right now is our evening, but those of you that are more in American time zones are more middle of your day. So there we go. Amazing. Let's get underway. I'll hand over to you, Sydney, and we'll get started.
Awesome. That sounds great. So hey everyone, my name's Sydney Prusso. I'm a muralist and illustrator. And like I mentioned, I'm from Tampa, Florida. And I know Logan because I started working with him last September. I'd had basically 9 months of really slow months that kind of killed my confidence in my business. And I was really burnt out. And I assumed that my artwork just couldn't cut it. I don't know if any of you have been there where you just start losing confidence in your own skill. So I had plans to start applying for full-time jobs at that point, but on a whim, I joined a webinar like this one, and it was hosted by, I don't know if any of you guys know Jess Miller, but she's a hand lettering artist and she's great and you should check out her work. But yeah, I was just looking for any information that another artist could provide because in my mind, my artistic skill was the problem. And yeah, that was the problem with my lack of client work, not, my mindset or anything. But after chatting with Logan a little bit, I was able to see that maybe my artistic skill wasn't the problem and that I had some other blocks going on the business and mindset side of things.
Amazing. I love it. So I'm going to do a bit of an intro here in terms of myself. So kind of giving you some context, and I do know quite a few people here, but you all will notice that I am from New Zealand, as I mentioned, but I do spend most of my time, in the Americas and in Europe. I do run our coaching business fully remotely, which is great. And look, my background is that I had my own creative business for 11 years. It was in the live event space in New Zealand. And early on in that journey, I actually went and got my business masters, entrepreneurship business masters, because I wanted to learn more about the business side. And very, very quickly, I ended up doing a lot of work with universities, helping their creative programs, primarily helping awesome people who were struggling with the business side of creativity. So I worked with a lot of universities right up to a master's level in New Zealand. It was all part-time because I was running my own creative business at the time as well. A lot of different programs online, in person, on stage, one-on-one, lots of different sort of situations with lots of different universities and public programs in New Zealand. Then eventually when I basically sort of moved on and sold the creative company, I decided to go full-time into the coaching space. So these days we are coaching awesome visual creatives. Everyone we work with is in the visual creative space. Most people we work with are in North America and in Europe. And yeah, we help people who are kind of in three different groups. We help one group people who are like early stage, trying to figure it out, maybe making a little bit of money as a visual creative, but really wanting to turn this into a full-time thing. Some people have day jobs, some people have families, and they're wanting to actually maybe move away from that day job and be able to spend more time with the family as well. So, we help them with those steps and actually growing their business. Finally, is often what they say. The second group are more further along. So they're like, hey, I've been doing this for a number of years. Some people have been doing it for even up to 20 years in some situations, or even just a year or two. And for them, it's really about, hey, I want to grow this to be a sustainable business. I'm bringing in some money at the moment, but I'm working a lot of hours. It's not really working. Some of them have part-time jobs, and I really want to actually turn this to that next level. Often for many people, that next level is earning around 5 to 10K per month. And beyond as well. So that's what we help people do. The final group we work with are people who have big followings. So about 10% of people we work with have over 10,000 followers, primarily on Instagram. So we work with them as well to help them to grow their business too. So it gives you a bit of a feel for some of the things that we do over at Flammable Entrepreneur. Now, I do also run retreats as well. So something I love to mention is we have an entrepreneur retreat brand. Those of you that know my good friend Kat Coke. Kat Coke is amazing creative and designer as well. We co-run a retreat. We just finished our Morocco retreat about a month ago. Last year we were in Spain, and the year before that we were in France, which was fantastic. So they're incredible week-long retreats that we run every single year, which is awesome. So that's a little bit about me. We're going to be diving right into today's training because honestly, we're just so excited about sharing this training with you, all about growing your business through Instagram. Now, one thing some of you might have seen is that I am giving away freebie coaching calls. This is 30-minute coaching calls to get on a call with me to basically help you to move forward with your business and see what's going on, see what you need help with, and all those good things, give some advice on that call. So what we will be doing is I'm going to post a survey for that straight in the chat. Click the survey. There's lots of information there around how that works. It takes 5 to 10 minutes to fill in the survey, and then we'll just go through and pick 3 people to have a call with me. Also, Paul, who's the amazing business specialist in my team, will also be getting some people on calls with him as well. So we'll give away some additional calls too to get on a call with him, which he's fantastic as well. The great thing is we'll also be diving in and giving everyone that fills out the survey some personalized business feedback as well via voice message, even if you don't get on that freebie call. So do check that out. We'll share it in the afterwards and the email we'll send with the recording and all those good things there. But even pop that open right now if it's something you want to do. So you can always do it after this call, after this training. Awesome. All right, we're going to jump into it. I'm super excited about just diving in because this is something that I'm very passionate about, and I know Sydney's passionate about as well, is using business as a tool to grow your following, using Instagram as a tool to grow your business. Now, there's lots of ways to grow your business, and this is one of the big things I do share with our clients is Instagram is not the only way, it's just one of the ways. I think sometimes people get stuck into, oh, do I have to do this? Or do I have to post every day? I'm going to be giving you some perspectives around that. So this is just one of the ways that you can grow your business among many others as a visual creative. All the people we work with are in the visual creative space, graphic designers, muralists, illustrators. So we're really diving into those things. So the first thing that we're going to dive into is around creating reels to attract your ideal client. So this is a really interesting thing in that reels are the hot thing still on Instagram. Now, reels are basically competition for TikTok, right? So what actually Meta who runs Instagram, they notice is that humans get engaged by content which is moving, by video-based content. We consume video-based content. And this is a really important thing to understand is that many of things that are happening with Instagram are evolving and changing because of how we all behave as well. And we like watching videos. We're attracted to watching video moving content. This is why Reels have taken off. This is also why, of course, that TikTok has taken off as well. So a really important thing to understand is that Reels are a great thing to do. If you're not doing them, we heavily encourage you to do them. Now, do you have to do it? No, you can still be on Instagram. You can still run Instagram without Reels, but it's something that you will get a lot more of a boost because the algorithm loves them, Instagram love them, and we all honestly just love them as well. As much as some people say, oh, I don't like making them. We do notice for a lot of people, there's a big block around sometimes starting with Reels and actually creating them. Can be a bit scary. You can start small. You're not going to start as an expert creating the most beautiful reels in the world. And that's actually okay because you've got to start somewhere. Yes, over time, you can learn more about how to make even more engaging reels and how to grow that. But it starts with one reel. So those of you here that are like, oh, haven't been leaning into reels at all, I would really encourage you to actually have a go, start learning about how to do them. And yeah, starting small is going to be part of it as well. Now, the easiest tip around getting into reels is actually find a friend who is already posting reels and get them to show you. Because one of the difficulties with reels is you're using your phone, can be challenging, but there's also tons of online information around reels and what you can do around that. So when you're thinking about creating these reels, we are noticing that shorter reels are doing pretty well. You don't have to do short content reels, but often under 10-second reels can work really, really well. So sometimes people think, oh, I don't have the time to create a highly edited reel that's 20 seconds, 30 seconds, a minute. No, you can do even shorter reels as well. At the same time, obviously, longer reels can be good, particularly if you're really wanting to dig into something in a lot more depth. But the other thing that we're seeing around reels is that people are liking to see authenticity. Right, so yes, it's good to have the perhaps perfectly edited or your perfect artwork, but people actually want to see more authenticity. They want to actually see more of you. They want to see more things behind the scenes as well. And this is where we're seeing behind the scenes content in terms of your work and your business is actually performing really, really well. It doesn't need to be all absolutely perfect. So definitely big encouragement around reels around that. We'd love to hear some of your perspectives around the Sydney, around reels from your experiences. If we dive into that.
Yeah, definitely. What's great about that is you don't have to post a huge long edited like takes forever kind of reel. Like I think a lot of the ones that I find myself interacting with the most are just like the quick 10-second ones that might just be a quick snippet of somebody's thoughts on their work or something funny going on in their office or whatever. And I think that that's great. And if you're a little bit uncomfortable with reels, that's a great place to start.
Amazing. I love it. So, so powerful. And, this is to really get you thinking about these next steps within this. We're going to keep taking you through the training. There's going to be some other things related to this topic around reels as well. The second thing we want to dive into is how to manage the ever evolving platform. Now, raise your hand if you find it slightly annoying that Instagram keeps changing and evolving and new things changing, right? I can see a few people raising their hands there. Yep. It's like one of the most common things is like, oh, Instagram isn't the same as it used to be. And neither's anything, to be honest. Everything keeps evolving, everything keeps changing. Yes, other platforms are evolving and changing as well. I know it can be incredibly frustrating. You perhaps learn something, you finally figure something out, and then things evolve. People do sometimes share, they feel like things that they're just constantly chasing how things keep changing. And that, unfortunately, is part of running a business as well, is yes, things are going to keep evolving and keep changing. One thing I want you to be really aware of is your mindset around that. So what we sometimes see people do is they say, oh, Instagram, it keeps changing, it keeps evolving, so I'm not going to do it. I'm over it. And, it's much easier to say that and not do it rather than actually lean in and figure things out. Oh, I'm going to go on another platform. I'm going to go over to TikTok. I'm going to go over to Pinterest. I'm going to go over to one of the other platforms. Now, the problem with that is, well, other platforms keep evolving as well. But what then happens is you're leaving a platform that is working for you and is a great place to be as a visual creative, and you're trying something else and you're starting fresh over there. So often what we see is people sort of try something else out for a few months and they go, oh, actually, maybe I will go back to Instagram. And then they do that for a few months and then they get annoyed with Instagram and they go over there. So what happens is they're fluttering back and forth to different platforms. And what that means is that they're never actually leaning into one platform. Yes, engagement's going to go up and down. Yes, things are going to keep evolving, but keeping a focus on Instagram is really important. Now, you might find you're going to focus on another platform. Absolutely, you can do that. But one of the big things I share is that you should focus your attention when it comes to social media and in general around marketing as well. So yes, put 80% of your energy perhaps into Instagram as your social media platform. I'm not saying you can't do other things. You could put some of your energy into some other platforms, but unless you have a lot of time and maybe a team, it's going to be really hard to do all of the platforms. So we all hear this, you've got to be everywhere. Well, no, it's not actually true. You've got to be somewhere a lot, and other places you can be a small amount as well. So that's something that I will really want you to think about, is being careful of changing and moving back and forth. I'm going to talk about this idea of focus when it comes to Instagram and how much to post on there. We're going to talk about that a little bit later, but just around the ever evolving platform, I'm going to say something a bit blunt, which is, yes, you need to keep up with it. And yes, you need to keep learning. So part of your job as a creative business owner is to, yes, learn about what's going on with Instagram. One of the big things that we know is that when new things come out on Instagram, they get a lot more focus. What does that mean? It means that if you post using new features that have just come out, you're actually going to get more engagement, right? Because Instagram wants people to use the new features, test things out. It's something that we saw when Reels first came out. If you used Reels, you got a lot of engagement because Instagram was like, we want to encourage this behavior. So when you do notice new features, new things coming out, test them out, try them out, because actually you'll get even more engagement from them as well. So there's a bit of a hot tip around that. What are your thoughts around this, Sydney, in terms of the ever evolving platform and some of our frustrations and the things we can do about that?
Yeah, so keeping up with just one social media platform is already ridiculously hard to begin with. Like, I feel like every time I see a new thing about how to keep up with Instagram, it's like post every single day, post on your stories like 5 times a day. Like it's already too much. And so I feel like spreading yourself too thin and trying out too many different platforms at once, it's just going to be too much. So whatever it is, pick one of them, whether it's TikTok or Instagram, and then kind of you can come up with a strategy that'll work for you, that just as long as you can stay consistent within that strategy over time, it's maybe not going to happen within a couple months or maybe even a couple years, but like it happens over time. That consistency builds, and then you'll start getting attraction there and seeing it worked for you.
Amazing. I love that. So powerful. All right, we're going to jump into some next things here. And just a reminder, everyone here, we are going to be running a Q&A at the end. Some people did actually send in some questions beforehand, so we will dive into some of those as well. But at the end of this training piece, these things we're sharing, there's going to be time for some questions at the end. So if you any questions you're thinking about now, just write them down, and you can always put them in the chat as we get closer to that time. I'll let you know again so you know when question time is coming up, and then we'll be able to dive in. Look, can be anything around what we're sharing today. If there's some other business related things you want to ask, yeah, absolutely, fire them in and we'll see if we can answer them during the time that we have as well. Amazing. All right, so next up, what we're going to dive into is how to connect with your audience to book your next project. Okay, and this is a really interesting one because, I'm sure most of you here are probably on Instagram, and some of you may find that you find clients, you receive work through Instagram, and that's great. Some of you might be early stage in your business, some of you might be getting started, some of you might have been doing this for years. That's great. We've worked with lots of people, and we often see that people, even with big followings, aren't necessarily just finding people are reaching out to them, right? There's other things that you need to do to actually get clients beyond just the posting side. So yes, posting engaging content builds trust with your audience, growing an audience. These are all good things to do, but there's lots of other ways to utilize your following to actually get those next projects, get the next paid work. And one of the easiest things you can do is actually start to build an emailing list, right? Build a mailing list. Very simple. Now, a lot of people don't do this, and I really view mailing lists as like your VIP people. So you might have an Instagram following, whether you've got 1,000 followers or 10,000 followers or 100,000, whatever it is. The people that want to learn more and follow you even more are people that might be become your emailing list, and they're your VIP people. Now, a good important piece is, yes, build a mailing list, choose a piece of emailing software to have. It's not enough just to have, here's how you join my mailing list. So on your website, you can have that. Here's how to join it. You could even have it somewhere on your link tree. You might get a few people joining your list that way. You need to have some sort of incentive for them to join, right? So this is where we get into some sort of downloadable freebie. There's a geeky marketing term, which is called a lead magnet. Some of you might have heard of. The idea here is that you want something small for free as a downloadable that they'll get in return for sharing their email address. And this does several things. One, it's something cool that they can get in exchange for the email address. They can unsubscribe whenever they want, right? So they could download, get the freebie, unsubscribe straight away. That's fine. That's totally okay as well. But we want people to join that mailing list who are excited to be there as well. There needs to be some sort of energy exchange. So often you might get people who, they don't even want or care about the freebie, but they're just going to do it anyway because they're like, oh, well, it's nice. I kind of get something. I'm not even going to use it. I'm not even going to look at it, whatever that is. But there's an energy exchange happening there, which they get something, you get something, right? So there's something in that which is incredibly powerful, whereas they might have not just signed up before, even if there was a clear option for that. So really important for you to think about what a freebie downloadable could be that your audience might be interested in. It could be some sort of checklist. It could be a piece of art. It's something that you don't have to do anything for. It should be pretty automatic and pretty easy to do, but you can set that up. So it's a really good thing to do. Start building that mailing list of people, because then you can connect with that mailing list further along, and that's a way that you can connect with ideal clients as well. Who uses the DMs? Raise your hand if you use direct messaging some way or another, even just direct friends. Fantastic. I love that. So look, it's direct messaging on Instagram is actually quite underutilized. So it's something you can definitely be doing, is direct messaging with your followers and building connections in that way as well. Yes, it's a little bit manual, but you can actually reach out to people through the DMs. Look, you're going to get better engagement by reaching out to people that are already connected with you or that you have engaged with you recently. So that's something to think about. However, there's usually people in your following already that could be potential clients. Yes, there's going to be a lot of other creatives as well, but actually connecting with those around you, the creatives too, helping them know what you're up to. So they might refer you work, but also there might be potential clients. So using direct messaging can be a really powerful tool to get a bigger connection and perhaps find some of those work opportunities as well. Lots of good things in that. Another thing that we see is that, I have lots of calls with people that, sometimes consider working with us and those things there as well. And some people who end up working with us. And something really common we see is that it's not clear that this person is actually available for hire, right? We see your amazing creative artwork, but like, is this a hobby? Is this like just something you do for fun? Maybe you're in art school at the moment and it's like a portfolio you're sharing on there. You need to make it very clear on your profile that you're actually available for hire. And this is what you can do in your profile, your written part of your profile as well, and have a way to connect beyond there, right? A lot of people have like a link tree or some sort of link that can take you somewhere to learn more, perhaps to a website if you have one, perhaps to download that freebie and join the mailing list, perhaps to other things that you're sharing, even other social media sites as well, if you do have them set up. So that's definitely something you need to be aware of, is if you go on your Instagram right now, are people aware that you're actually a creative business owner, or are they thinking you might just be doing this as a hobby? Because they're going to love your artwork, but are they aware that they could actually potentially hire you? Would love to hear your thoughts around this, Sydney.
Yeah, totally. So I just more recently started growing a mailing list over email. And so for these freebies, you really want to think about how you can help your potential client and get them into your mailing list. So for mine, for example, one that I have is for mural clients. And so I have like a little link to it, and it'll say, click this link to get the complete mural checklist. So everything you need to know before hiring a mural artist. And then, they enter their email and then it gets sent to them. And then I have that information and they have that freebie. And now we can start kind of an exchange going forward. And I might send them, occasional emails about my mural projects. And then I have that kind of that lead and that contact, and we can kind of foster that better connection. And the second thing Logan was saying was, when's the last time you posted exactly what your services were on your Instagram itself? Just like be really clear with your audience. It's something like really simple that I honestly hadn't thought about. Just like, oh, here's all my services, and just let everyone know.
Amazing. I love that. It's, some of these things that we're sharing, some of them aren't super complex. Like you can really dig in and get more complex with all of these things that we're sharing, but there's many things here that many people just don't do. Right. So that's part of growing that business as well. Hey, what we're going to do now is we're going to get everyone to share their Instagram. So I'm going to post mine in there. I want you to go and grab your HTML. Sorry, your HTTP link. So actually grabbing like I did, not just the app tag, but I would love everyone here to go open up your browser, grab that link and share it in here. This is a great way to get everyone here connecting, because community is a big part of growing a business. You can follow Sydney and I if you're not already, but we would love to connect with you. I would love to connect with you. I know Sydney wants to as well. If everyone can drop them, and that'd be great. And then have a look, start opening up other people's things. good tip there, always make sure you enter a clickable link just like this here, because otherwise what happens is if you do just enact this, people have to manually copy things over to find your Instagram. Always a good tip whenever you're on something like this. So keep trying them in. Loving seeing everyone's links there. Make sure I'll go through and follow you all as well if we are not already connected. Very, very cool. Awesome. We're going to keep moving through the next thing. So next thing I'm going to really dive into is this idea of social media being a core strategy versus a supporting strategy. This is really interesting. We're going to talk specifically about Instagram itself, whether it is the core way that you market and grow your business and help people find out about you, or is it what we call a supporting strategy? What often happens is we hear this, you've got to be everywhere. You've got to be on all the platforms. You've got to be doing everything marketing wise. Most people can't do that. They're fully overwhelmed by that idea. Don't have time. You're busy with your business. Some of you have day jobs. You're busy with the creative side of what you're doing, and you can't manage to be everywhere and doing all the things. So one of the big things we lean into in our programs is helping you really identify what is the core way to market this business. And in that, we're often helping people figure out, like, is Instagram a core strategy for you, or is it a supporting strategy? Now, if Instagram is your core strategy, it's the core way that you're going to market your business, it's where you're going to put your energy and time in. What that means is, yes, you've got to post quite a lot, ideally daily. And you might be scheduling those posts, absolutely. It means you probably need to be doing reels. It means you could be utilizing things like the DMs. It means you're going to keep up with the latest features. It basically means that is your place, and you're going to really dig in and become an expert as much as you can about that, because it's the core way. So one of the big things I see, I've been talking to many amazing, highly talented, very creative people, and I say to them, I'm like, oh, cool. Like, what do you do marketing wise? And they're like, oh, well, I do a bit. I use Instagram. And I'm like, cool. How often do you post on Instagram? And they're like, oh, like, I don't know, like a couple of times a week. And then I go on their Instagram and they're like, actually, they haven't posted in like 3 weeks. And I get it. It can be very overwhelming, those things there. But if it is going to be your core way, yes, this is something you need to lean into. You don't need to start posting daily if you're not yet, but you might start increasing the volume. So sometimes it's, okay, what do you need to do to increase that to 3 times per week rather than just once, and then getting to daily. Yes, there's about the content side and what to post. We're going to talk a bit more about that as well. But this is really important to understand that if it is not your core marketing strategy and it's what we call a supporting strategy, you don't have to post all the time, right? So if it's a supporting strategy, it means maybe you could post once a week. You could post reels. It's going to be a good idea, but you don't absolutely have to. So that's just something to think about, that idea of core versus supporting. Now, if it is a supporting strategy, you've got to know what it's supporting. Like, what is the core thing you're going to lean into? And there's lots of ways to market and grow a business. Instagram is actually just a really good way that's free and relatively easy. There's lots of other ways. You can build partnerships. You can go networking. You can do cold email outreach. There's a lot of different ways you can build your business. Instagram is actually a pretty good way when you start looking at all the different things. But based on personality for some people, it might not work, or based on their audience, may not work as well. So sometimes part of the process is testing things and trying things out, experimentation. But I just want you to see the two sides of the coin there, of the supporting strategy versus the core strategy. Instagram, I think everyone should have Instagram, because it is a great supporting strategy no matter what you're doing. A lot of people go on, check out your work there. You don't necessarily need to post every single day though. So that's an important thing to think about as well. Awesome. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, Sydney. We've definitely done a lot of work around the core strategy versus supporting with you as well.
Yeah, so I have 2 core strategies that are kind of interchangeable, cold emails and Instagram. Lately, Instagram's been working much better for me, but I started my business on pretty much only cold emails and in-person outreach. So I just want to make it clear, social media is not everything, and it's not everything it's cracked up to be. Like, when I started, I thought that you have to have a big following to make a good living, and that the inverse must be true, that people with big followings must be making a good living. And, I found out that that's not necessarily true at all. And just because, those things might not be related for anybody.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And, as I mentioned, about 10% of people we work with have like over 10,000 followers. We work with some people who have 100,000 followers, a couple 100,000 followers as well. And yeah, it's really interesting, because there's other pieces to the puzzle to really lean in and work out. Just because you've got a ton of followers doesn't mean that you are actively able to grow your business with that. unless you put things in place that are going to make a difference. So that's some of the stuff we talked about in terms of making very clear that you are available, in terms of making clear that you are a business, and all those good things there as well. So we're gonna dive into one more concept, one more thing around this topic of Instagram, and obviously how you can grow your business through Instagram. So it is time where we're going to start diving into the question stuff. So if you do have a question you'd love to ask, can you please put it in the chat now or anytime from now onwards, because we will dive into as many of them as we can. We did get a bunch that people sent through beforehand, so we're going to dive into some of them as well. I did notice a few people did put questions up top. If you can just repost your question now, that'd be great, so we can keep them all there and easily track them as well, even if you've posted it already. Awesome, cool. So in terms of this next one, we're going to talk about basically tips for planning your social media posting. All right, so one of the biggest challenges we hear from people is, I'm busy, Logan. It's hard to post all the time. Once per day, my goodness. Like I'm also trying to run my own business. I've maybe got a family. Some people have day jobs. How do you balance those things there? And yeah, it's a big challenge that a lot of people struggle with, is how to keep up. So very short thing that I'll share is that one piece of artwork does not only need to be one piece of content. One piece of artwork can be multiple pieces of content. That's a big thing that a lot of people just don't think about, don't understand. And we've had clients early on in our program saying like, I know I need to post more, but I just don't have time to create more art, create more designs, create more work. And we go, well, do you have to? What about the previous work that you've done? Is there things that could be repurposed? Is there things that could be fleshed out from there? So there's lots of ways to post different things. It doesn't have to be just related to your artwork. One concept that we talk about is this idea of themes or buckets. Idea of themes and buckets is a really, really powerful thing, because what you can actually do is basically have content ideas. So rather than trying to always come up with a new idea, what can I do? And you kind of sit there and go, what should I do today? Oh, it can be quite overwhelming. Actually have a theme that you can post multiple times on. So for example, if you have a theme that you post maybe once a week, that is something you can do 4 times. So that could be, for example, inspiration, right? So the inspiration behind your creativity. So you can come up with 4 posts or 4 reels per month around inspiration for your creativity. So rather than actually trying to come up with something new, you just go, okay, well, I need to come up with some new content. What should I do this week around inspiration and creativity, inspiration around my work? So there you can create pieces of content around that. Another example could be, as I mentioned, behind the scenes, right? So you could be doing some things with behind the scenes. You could do process shots. And once again, this is starting to think about one piece of artwork. You can do a process shot, you can do inspiration behind it, you can do the final, you can show it being used. There's lots of different things you can do with even just one piece of artwork as well, which is really, really important to think about too. Another thing I'll share around posting your social media is the promotional side and the sales side. So, people have got different views, and I kind of see people at different ends of the spectrum. Some people post way too much trying to sell their work. Right, their offerings, their services, their products. They're just posting all the time. And what happens is they get a disengaged audience, because audiences, none of us love being sold to, actually. So actually, people unfollow, people mute, people disengage, they don't engage, those things there. If you're posting too much in more of a sales or marketing driven capacity. Hey, do you want to buy my work? Hey, I'm available. Hey, I'm this here. And then people at the other end never post. Never ever, never would put a post or reel saying they're available or they've got something for purchase. So I tend to see people kind of sit in one of those two sides. There is a middle ground. Now, it always varies client to client and depending on where you're at. For most people, it's somewhere around the 1 in 10 or 1 in 20 posts could be a bit more promotion. So if you're not posting at all, well, occasionally actually having something that is more promotional if you're not posting anything at all. And if you're posting every second post is promotional, you're probably overdoing it. So it's one of those rule of thumb things where about 1 in 10, 1 in 20 posts could be more promotional. There's something you can do which is called we call it a blunt post. So this is like a post saying, I am available for hire for these sorts of projects. Let me know if you're interested. Or I am currently I currently have space available in my schedule for July, August, whatever that is. You can actually do a post around that. You can put in your profile too. It's something that you might see, but this is something that you can occasionally do. Yes, you're going to get lower engagement on these posts because most people in your audience are not going to react, but it's important to show to people that are scrolling through your social media or potential clients that you do this stuff. You are available for hire. And it's always really interesting. Even your own followings might respond to that and say, yes, actually, yes, I'd be interested in hiring you. Like, you've been following me this whole time. Like, why didn't you just message me? Well, it's not at the front of people's minds. So this is a really important part of it as well. We'd love to hear your thoughts around this one, Sydney.
Yeah, so I'm just about to, I'll send this link here. I, here's a month of Instagram post ideas, just right there, and how I find time to post and create at the same time, because those things it's very hard to juggle those things. So yeah, staying consistent and finding a way to kind of implement something like this in your own way, whether it's exactly what I'm, posted here in this reel or your own version of this, and just finding a way to keep at it and stay consistent.
I love it. So powerful. Awesome. All right. We're going to jump into questions from here. We're not going to be able to answer all of the questions probably, but we will dive in where we can. We've got some that we were sent in beforehand. So we are going to start off with them, and then we'll be jumping into the chat as well. And we're kind of mixing it up a little bit too around these questions. So the first question we're going to jump into is around, how do you define your market? How do you define the people, I guess, that are going to be your clients? So this is something that a lot of people struggle with early on in their business, is, okay, defining it. So I'm going to dive right into that. Basically, what's really interesting is people sometimes have this mentality of, well, anyone that likes my art, likes my design, I would work with them. Like, well, yeah, maybe you would. However, the problem is, to attract your ideal clients, and you need to be clear on who they actually are. Because if you try and market to everyone, you're going to end up marketing to no one, and everyone's going to not feel like it's for them. Anything you put out, they won't feel like it's for them if you try and market to a general audience. So the important idea here is to, yes, define your target market, is what we call it. So ideally, what I often recommend is you think about 3 different groups of people that you can market to. And there's a couple of tips on how you can do this. Those of you that are obviously already in business, maybe you don't have a good defined target market, you can actually look at the people that have been attracted to your work so far and go, well, which ones did I enjoy working with? Which ones would I love to work with more? And you can expand on that and say, okay, well, I've done some work for cafes, those here that are muralists. Maybe you've done something in a cafe. Well, if you enjoy that, that could be one of your target markets, is cafes. So that's one way to look at it, what's already working and what could you do more of. You might be like, oh, but there's hardly any cafes around. Well, that's something you can lean into and start researching on. Okay, what cafes? And this could expand to maybe cafes and restaurants, for example. Another way to look at it is really think about who you would love to be working with. Right? What are the sorts of organizations or people that you would love to work with, that you would love to actually offer your products or your services to? So yes, obviously it's got to be interesting for them as well, but this can actually help in that process of figuring out what sort of clients you would love to work with, is actually thinking about, okay, who would bring me joy to work with? And sometimes the reverse applies as well. Which types of clients would I just not want to work with? Sometimes they can actually do a brainstorm around that. That may even help you to figure out who you do want to actually work with within this area as well. So, it takes time. In the end, you getting out there and doing it and trying to and having a go at actually marketing and selling your stuff, whatever it is, products or services, that's how you're also going to learn. So sometimes people are going, oh, I need to figure out the perfect target market, but they're not out there giving it a go. They're like, no, I just need to figure it out. It's like, no, the only way you will figure it out is from getting out there and trying to connect with people. So sometimes it's defining the target market. Maybe it is restaurants and cafes for those muralists or designers there, and actually starting conversations with them, connecting with them, cold emailing, going into some cafes, talking to people. And you're going to learn whether, yes, your work is going to be attractive to them, whether it's going to work, what do they need, all of those good things there as well. So it's a really interesting one when it comes to that around defining your target market. Awesome. Next question. This is one we got sent in earlier, and this is definitely around on the creative side. So I'm going to ask this one of you, Sydney, which is, how do you pick colors for different services to withstand the elements?
So for this one, I don't pick my colors based on the elements. I mostly pick the paint type. So I work with mostly exterior or interior paint from just Home Depot or Lowe's or Ace, wherever you get your paint. And then just, picking whichever one is specific to that material that you're painting on. So, if it's exterior on brick, make sure that you get that exterior paint. If it's interior on drywall, just make sure you get the interior paint. But no, I don't really choose the colors based on where I'm painting.
Amazing. I love that. Very, very cool. We had a question that was sent in around diversified income, how to grow your income as an artist with a small social following. So I think this is really interesting because often what happens is you start somewhere, right? You'll start off with actually one follower, maybe two followers, and then you get to 10 followers and you start building it from there. So one of the biggest challenges people sometimes have is they're like, well, I want to start bringing an income, but I have a tiny following. I only have 100 followers or 200 followers. Even maybe some people say like, oh, I have hardly any followers and I've got like 5,000 followers. I'm like, that's a lot, right? Yes, maybe in perspective to people who have 100,000 followers, a million followers, it's not, but actually we've got plenty of business owners who have under 10,000 followers that are still growing their business, bringing in income. So you don't need to wait till you have a larger following to grow a business. As I already mentioned, you don't have to have Instagram as your core marketing strategy. There's other things you can be leaning into. At the same time, all of these things that I've talked about can still apply to people with small followers. If you've got 200 followers, you can still be connecting with and reaching out to people in the DMs. You can still be thinking about your posts that you're sharing and engaging content and maybe doing those blog posts, making it clear that you are available. Yes, you might not get as much engagement, but it's still something to do anyway. In terms of this note here, this person mentioned around diversified income and how to actually grow that income as an artist with a small following is your own network is going to be the best way to get your early income in your business, your own network. So a lot of people say, oh, Logan, I don't want to sell to my friends and family. That's fair enough. They might be interested in buying from you. So that's something to keep in mind. But it's more the network effect of making it very clear to your friends and family what you do, because they may know someone else. And we talk to a lot of clients who just don't tell their friends and family about what they're up to. They kind of keep it a little bit hidden. They don't want to brag about what the cool stuff they're doing because they want to build their business themselves. But actually, it could be your auntie, your friend, an old colleague who knows someone that may hire you. So actually you telling your network and updating your network around what you're doing and even asking them, hey, do you know anyone that might be interested in this sort of work here? I know it can feel a bit scary because you're being vulnerable in front of your own network here, but this is an incredibly powerful thing to actually lean into as well. Awesome. I love that. Next one we're going to jump into here is another one here for you, Sydney. A question we got sent in before, which is what kind of tools do you use as a muralist?
Yeah, so I've got a whole list of my tools. If you look at the link in my bio on my Instagram, I have a mural gear checklist there. But just to name a couple off the top of my head, I use a projector to get the tracings in, and then any kind of lifts for the situation, ladders, and interior, exterior paint from the hardware store, and your paintbrushes.
Amazing. I love that. Very, very cool. All right, we're going to keep moving through these questions. So this kind of is related to some other stuff we talked about recently, but the question is, do you have to niche down as a multimedia, multi-passionate artist? Focus is good when it comes to this stuff, but what we've got to do is we've got to find the balance. So what we said, like you're highly creative people and you don't want to block that creativity by just doing one thing. Right? Pretty much no one we work with wants to do one thing, because actually they're creative and they have a lot of ideas. Kind of like before, often we see that some people are trying to just do one thing and they're frustrated about it, they're annoyed and they feel like their creativity is squashed, or they're trying to do like millions. They're trying to do 10 things. And sometimes I get on calls with people and they're like, I've got this, I'm doing that, I want to do that, I've got these things here. It's actually finding the balance between the two and thinking about short versus long-term strategy. So for example, if you're in this place where you're like, cool, I want to build my business in these areas here, and I've got a lot of ideas. Maybe you want to focus on 3 areas first for the next 3 to 6 months. Now you might be like, but Logan, I want to do all these other things. And I'm like, you can do everything. You just can't do everything right now. So this is where actually getting focused and building up the base of your business with focus around 3 things is a good number. It could be slightly more, it could be slightly less. You build those up, you focus on those things in terms of your offerings. And then later, as you expand your business, you're going to be able to do more. Now, that may mean that you can get out of a day job. If you have a day job, you're going to have some more time. For some people, if they want to get some assistance, some team, small level of support, they're going to be able to do more as well. So this is where over time, you can grow the number of things that you do. And something I often share is that there should be at least one of those 3 things that is a higher value offer. And we see this all the time. There's people who are doing a lot. They're very creative people. They're selling stuff for under $50. Now, it's very hard. It's incredibly hard to build a sustainable business when you're selling stuff for under $50, because if you want to start earning thousands of dollars per month, you have to sell so much. And most people don't have big followings. So it's going to be really hard to get the volume of people to sell enough things at $5 to $50. So one of the big things we share is that one of those three things, maybe even two of those three things, should be worth at least $300. Ideally, even more, $500, $1,000 plus, even better, because that's what's going to get you to these next stages. Even if you have a small following, if you have 200 followers, it's going to be really hard to sell products for $5 to $50 and actually make your $2,000 to $5,000 per month to get things really moving. However, if you are selling things that are $500, you just need to sell less of them, right? It's kind of, in a way, the maths of this is really, really powerful, but a lot of people we speak to, they're trying to do all of the low ticket stuff. Now, even the people we work with big followings, they even sometimes struggle with the low ticket stuff as well. Right? We worked with people who, as I said, 50 to 100,000 followers, there's high followings as well. And they find this stuff hard. You'd think if you had 100,000 followers, you would be able to make a lot of money from selling things that are $5 to $50. Now, some of them can, but you'd be surprised about how small that income is. Yes, they still have to have these higher ticket items as well. So it's something that for a lot of people we speak to is a bit of a surprise when they think about it. They're like, oh, I've been trying to do this. So, sometimes it's print on demand, and I've been trying to do some other elements and selling these lower price offers. And they're like, it's not really working. I'm selling a small number. And it's kind of almost just as easy to sell people lower ticket stuff as those higher ticket items. So once again, the rule of thumb we use within this is $300 plus. So that's something within that there too. But once again, focus is good. We don't want to dampen the creativity. We just want to help focus it into perhaps 3 areas that are going to get you moving and finally get you taking action, bringing in the revenue you want, perhaps leaving that day job if you have one. So really, really important piece of it. Awesome. Hey, what we're going to do now, I'm just going to briefly share this. We will be wrapping up the next sort of 10 or 12 minutes or so. But those of you that did want to do the survey to get in for that freebie coaching call I mentioned, if you're interested in the freebie 30-minute coaching call with me, or we'll be doing some shorter calls with Paul from my team, do that survey there. It's pretty short. It's very interesting. People learn a lot from the survey as well. We're going to keep going through some more questions, but I just wanted to provide that into the chat for those of you interested, and we'll put it on the email we send out afterwards as well. Awesome. We've got another one for you, Sydney. Might be a pretty quick answer, but what projector should you use for murals? Have you got some ideas around that one there?
Yeah, no problem. So if it's a wall that's close up and you can't really get far away from it so that the projector can scale that image, make sure it's a short throw projector, and this works for really big walls too. Other than that, just any old projector works. I just used when I started I just used my dad's Dell from his office, and that worked just fine. But if you want any more specifics, you can just check out the link in my bio for that.
Amazing. I love that. So some good questions here being answered around Sydney. I can see Sydney you put around later. Many of our clients use later. So we're talking about scheduling tools. So later is a really good one. And I just want to touch on something around this, because people find it really hard to stay engaged and have to be on Instagram all the time posting. No, you don't have to be. You can use scheduling tools to do this. And scheduling tools like Later are actually really great for that. And as Sydney's mentioned here, Instagram does have its own scheduling tools now as well. Later's quite good because you can really make a good plan. You can use all the different features within Later as well. That's a really good thing to think about when it comes to the scheduling. Awesome. I'm going to go through the other questions here. Oh, Andrea, we've got a good one from you here. What should my highlights be, and what do you recommend? So highlights are great. So those of you that don't know what highlights are on Instagram, this is a great tool that everyone should be using. They're basically saved stories. So at the top, if you go to people's profile, at the top there, they often have, above their posts, they'll have some things called highlights. I call them the bubbles, the little bubbles there. And they're basically where you can save your stories if you want to. So this is where, if you've posted a story, you've got the option to actually put it in your highlights there as well. Now, different highlights to use. One of them is you could put some promotional stuff in there. So for example, your freebies, you could have a freebies highlight. That's a good place for people to join your email list. Right? So that's something that you could be doing. You could also be breaking it down into different projects that you're doing. If you've got longer term projects, or you've got different types of offerings, you could break it down into that to show the sorts of things that you do. For example, if you are an illustrator, but you also do lots of mural work, you could have a highlight which is murals, and you could have a highlight which is perhaps book covers or illustrations, book illustrations. And then you can have another one which might be, let's say you do some branding or illustrative logo type work. You can actually break them up in that way as well. It kind of is a way of showing, here's the sort of work that I do. Now, you don't have to do it that way. What I recommend you do is go and surf around and see what other people do around their highlights. A good thing to be mindful of is whatever you are sharing on there, you need to be a bit mindful of how the highlight looks, right? So be aware of whatever the highlights look like. We just did a big tidy up of our highlights recently to make them a bit better in terms of the look and the feel of them as well. Did you have anything else you wanted to add around that, Sydney, around like the highlights you use or different things within that, around how you run your Instagram?
Yeah, so I have up in my highlights just a quick, about me to start, and then I actually have my lead magnets for the mailing list after that, just to get that going. And then I forget what else I have. A couple Q&A things, I think. But yeah, so keeping it simple, just about me and what I do and how you can work with me.
I love it. Awesome. We've got a question here around safe payment methods for projects that you bag through Instagram. So a couple of different things through this is you can actually work with clients and sell through Instagram. We have, we occasionally have people we work with that just do all of their like sales through Instagram in different ways, like through the DMs. I'm always recommending to people that once things turn into more of a conversation about working with you or more of a sales conversation, you ideally actually take that conversation to email because it's more of a professional format. Now, if it's more product focused, yeah, you could be doing it through Instagram, but that's just one thing to mention is that you might be actually doing it through email. Now, in terms of payment methods, there's so many different ways to pay people these days, and safe ways. Yes, you've got to be a bit careful around this. Often things like Shopify might have their own payment mechanisms, so there might be mechanisms through that. Some different online platforms that you can use have their own platforms, but we've got people that use Stripe, we've got people that use PayPal, we've even got people that use Wise for these things. So Stripe is actually quite a good one that you can plug in and use in different ways as well. PayPal is takes quite high fees, but is also an option there as well. I love that. Very, very cool. Oh, specific strategy when it comes to hashtags. I think this is one you could share something around, Sydney. What's your strategy around hashtags and how you lean into the hashtag strategy for your posting?
Yeah, right now I'm just kind of throwing spaghetti at the wall with hashtags, but there was a strategy I was using where I would use 30 hashtags because that was the maximum that you could use. And then I would look up, what would be trending hashtags. You can look at other people in your industry and see what hashtags they use and make a compilation of them, switch them up a bunch, see what works. I was able to figure out a lot of hashtags that were working best when using the app later. I think their paid plan would let you see like which hashtags were working the best. I'm not sure if they still do that, but as for right now, I know that Instagram is doing better with less hashtags. So like somewhere between 5 and 10 is what I heard most recently. I can't confirm that for sure, but I'm pretty sure between 5 and 10 is what they're looking for now.
And that's that stuff around keeping up and seeing what's happening here as well. And look, something around this is some of you might be like, oh, it's overwhelming. I didn't know about the 5 or 10 hashtag thing. Oh, that's scary. And what should I do? It can be quite overwhelming. These things boost. These things are a boost. So if you do them, it might boost things by maybe 1% if you're doing this thing. For example, this 5 to 10 hashtags might boost things by 1%. If you don't do it, you're not going to get that boost. So you don't have to do everything absolutely perfectly. Sometimes we see people getting really overwhelmed with I need to do the perfect hashtags. I need to do the perfect profile. I need to do all things perfectly. So what happens is they never post. They post once a week, which is a perfect post. And actually they need to be posting more. So this is a really good thing to think about. And even as Sydney said there, it's like, well, I'm kind of throwing spaghetti. I'm trying some different strategies around this. We're definitely seeing that hashtags don't notice the same amount as they used to, right? So that's a big thing here to be very, very aware of as well. So, in terms of hashtags, definitely, yes, you can use them. Do you have to do hashtags? No, you don't have to. It's something that can be a bit of a boost and it can help people connect with you as well. I love it. Awesome. So yeah, it's there's a good question there, and I see Sydney's put some thoughts around that as well. Personal political perspectives on Instagram business profile. Look, it's up to you. That's kind of what we say around this. It's up to you. You always need to be a bit careful in terms of what you share, because sometimes you might find that is divisive for your audience, but this is your platform. You get to choose how you run it as well. So if you don't want to sell to people that would hate to hear what you're saying, that might be fine. That might be fine for you. So it's really, it's a personal thing around that, personal preference. And I think, Sydney's got some great thoughts around that too. Yeah, celebrities do it as well, if that's a platform you want to use in that way. Hey, Andrea, you've got a good question here. What should I include in my bio? This is a good one. So bios are kind of interesting, and a lot of people don't really get this stuff right. What everyone could do right now is open up your bio and have a look, right? Open up a page, have a look at the bio, and just notice what you've got there. Lots of different ways to do this, but in your bio, use all of the space you have, right? So sometimes you can do so many characters there. Sometimes I see people who have hardly anything in their bio. This is lost real estate. So actually use that, make it clear around who you work with ideally, and the sort of things that you do. You may not have space to do all of these things. Also, there could be something that could give you credibility that you could put in your bio, and make sure you've got some sort of link in there, right? If you go to a profile, if someone's running a creative business and they don't have a link in their Instagram bio in there, it means they're losing opportunities. It means that no one knows how to contact them. Some people don't want to direct message you. They want to message you. They want to check out. They want to surf around. They want to find maybe your website, find out more information about you first. So definitely utilizing that. And that's where using a link tree is really good, because you can only put one link in there. So that's something to be aware of. Some people, if you do have a secondary Instagram profile, you can use that. You could put your secondary Instagram profile there. You don't have to, but you could. Some people like to keep, say, their personal and a business page separate. So that's something to think about. But really have a good look at your bio and just look at it and go, is it clear that I'm available for hire? This is another amazing thing that you can actually put there is, I'm currently available for these months, or I'm available for commissions, or I'm available for hire. Just making it very, very clear is a good thing that you can do. Currently booking, I think that might be what you've got at the moment, Sydney, is currently booking, or you've had that in the past too. Currently booking for, August, September, or whatever the time period is there. It's a good thing to do there as well. I love it, everyone. Hey, I'm very aware of time. I know there's been a ton more questions as well. We are going to be wrapping things up in the next couple of minutes. What I would love everyone here to do is to share one takeaway in the chat. Everyone that's here, what's one takeaway? What's one thing you found useful, interesting, helpful during this webinar that we've really dived into? Would love to hear what people have really heard, and it also helps just to consolidate everyone's learning. So if everyone can share one thing in the chat around their takeaway, really, really important thing. Cool. So what have we got? Just noticing the things coming through as we start to wrap up. Awesome, much better idea of how to structure your routine as an artist. I love that, Evan, absolutely. Reels can be short and imperfect. How to work with themes. I love that, Shannon, very cool. Repurposing content is very useful for sure. Importance of different pricing tiers. Yeah, push through the slow start and stay consistent. Consistency is so important when it comes to Instagram. Focus on your 3 groups there, Sarah, I love that. Juliana, things that resonate with me, utilize DMs more and be clear about my services offerings. Remember where to post services are. Oh, so many good things here. I'm just scrolling down, loving seeing all the great things. Instagram posting strategy and how to avoid burnout. Yeah, it is. A lot of people struggle with that in terms of how to keep up with the posting. And remember, you don't have to necessarily post every single day. If you want it to be your core strategy, yes, you could build up to it. Yeah, Megan, that's a good one. Post authentically. I think that's a huge one. We need to show the real side of us as well. Awesome. So have a read through as everyone shares their things. Honestly, Sydney, this has been so fun running this webinar, and it's just been a blast working with you on this webinar together as well. And we had a good time.
Oh yeah, it was so great connecting with you all and sharing this information.
Amazing. Hey, take care, everyone. We're going to wrap things up there. Once again, we will send the link to this recording. If you want to watch it again, we'll also include the link to that coaching survey as well. If you want to get on freebie survey, freebie call, and go from there. Awesome. Take care, everyone, and we'll connect again in future. Awesome. Have a great morning, afternoon, evening. Ciao.